Hello, everybody. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. Happy Monday morning. Tonight is week 2 of Zach Shallcross's season of The Bachelor. We will have a before and after live show, 7 p.m. East Coast. I'll be going live with you for 1 hour before tonight's episode and directly after. We're going to get into this part 2 of Madi Prewett and Grant Troutt discussing their marital status 1 month into marriage. They say marriage is hard, but they talk about the troubles of trying to remain pure and how Satan entered their marriage bed. We're going to discuss all of this, not in a way to mock people for choices that they've made, but, just because, A, it's wild. It's almost like when you go to an island that's never been contacted before from Western civilization, and you're like, oh, they use spears. This is amazing. Their language is different. They don't wear clothes. This is a different culture. Well, I watch this as a different culture, having not been raised in this purity lifestyle where all the attention is waiting for marriage. Of course, we discuss how it's harmful and things like that, but I'm not going to go off the rails like I did last time. If there are still people who disagree with me and that haven't unsubscribed and unfollowed my channel and things like that, I want to give you respect for decisions you've made. Now, please give me respect when I think it's harmful that we pass those on to youth. So some people might say, hey, wait till marriage, fine. But then others say it's like, well, why are we telling 8-year-olds this, 11-year-olds this? There's an issue of like where we teach people things. We're so afraid of having drag show performances for kindergarten. And then at the same time, we're putting purity rings on people saying, do not fornicate. And people are like, Mommy, what's fornication? You know what I mean? It's like, I'll teach you about that later. Just don't do the devil's tango, whatever. So anyway, we're going to get into it. I'm going to play a bunch of clips for you. The last clip will blow your mind. It's a mind-blowing clip. And I will share a sneak peek for you guys of my wedding video, which just came out, of course. I didn't wait. I was engaged for a long time. Finances were tough. I was unemployed before the pandemic, or the pandemic made me that way. And I've had to pull myself up by my bootstraps and afford a wedding. So if there's any bitterness that a billionaire can plan a wedding in 3 months, you'll see it. No, but I'm happy for them. You can't fault people that their parents are wealthy, but we can talk about ways in which we would prefer money spent on taxes to improve the well-being of others and not just preach like just don't have sex. It's like, well, how about food for everybody, colleges that are affordable, Medicare for all, just things that I think Jesus would like. Okay, anyway, let's get into it right now, and we'll start right with Grant's story. And I'll be quite honest, and you might not believe this, I like them as people. I like the goofy way they tell stories. There's a lot I like. So it's not just me being a hateful person. I just think, if I were interviewing him, I would be like, less Bible verses and tell me how you feel about things. It feels like you're just plagiarizing the Bible. I want to know how you feel, not which scriptures you can quote.
Freshman year of college at UC Santa Barbara, I'm playing basketball. And halfway through this freshman year, I'm at a party and I'm drunk. And I feel this rush of sobriety hit me. And this voice goes, Grant, go home. And I ran home to my dorm and I start bawling, crying. And I call my mom and I just said, Mom, I know who you raised me to be. I don't know who I am anymore. And it felt like everything I had ever worked for, dorms on the beach, D1 scholarship, athlete. It felt like I was gripping the ocean and it was just falling right through my hands. And she smiles and she goes, Grant, I packed you a Bible in your bag. I want you to open it. The very next day, I'm praying for the first time and I'm walking to our big hub of campus and I just go, God, if you're real, I need you to show me who you are because I'm miserable. And as I'm praying, a Chinese man walks up to me and I go, hey, and he goes, hey man, this is so random. I'm sorry, but I'm a local pastor at a church and I wanted to invite you to a Bible study I'm starting. He goes, do you want to join?
So Grant joins the Chinese man's Bible study, which of course his ethnicity actually had nothing to do with the story. Maybe there was a part that I missed, but of course Grant's the only one who shows up and he finds Jesus, and that's good. We're happy for him. Let's move to the 19-minute mark where they talk about engagement season. During 3 or 4 moments of this podcast, they discuss engagement season, which of course for them was 3 months, which maybe if you're waiting till marriage, you get married faster. Maybe it's like, all right, let's get to the finish line faster. Mainly because then you get to have sex. I think that's what we can all call out, right? But it's 90 days to be engaged. You know what I mean? That's just wild. I've literally not washed this sweatshirt in over 90 days. I'm kidding. I bought it over the weekend, but 90 days is fast.
And we've experienced some hard
Engagement
moments.
season was really hard.
Engagement season was really hard. Losing, family members and just going through some really hard things with friends. And just a lot of hard struggle. And we were only engaged for like 3 months. And even in that 3 months, so much was packed in.
And look, one person's pain doesn't make another person healthy. One person's poverty doesn't make another person's rich. So even, I don't want to discount that they're saying engagement was hard. I just think sometimes you listen to this and you see people that started on the third baseline and think they hit a triple, that old saying, right? You can quote Bible sayings, I'll quote random sayings too. But it's just like the idea, like, how hard was it? How hard was it, going to college on the beach, the ocean falling through your hands? Like whose words are these? And that's what I would want to get to if I was interviewing them, is like let's strip it away. Let's do like a 4-hour interview. Let's talk about who you are, and like let's not glaze over the stories of addiction and the stories of he went to jail on Valentine's Day night, which, by the way, we actually skipped over that part. Let's go back to the 16-minute mark and just hear him. It's actually very funny. I want to give him credit. It's a very funny line he had.
Every time I pray about this new gap year, faith-based gap year link year, God puts your name on my heart. And off a whim, I had this vision, and I wasn't even saved, but I saw one day I'm going to die, and I'm going to see my Creator face to face. And it's like I saw God, and he held up his arm this way, and he was like, Grant, I had all this for you. He goes, but you were so stuck on the fear of man and wanting to fit in that you settled for this. And because I didn't want to drop out of school and be the guy that drops out and goes to like a Christian camp. And my dad really didn't understand it. And I just decided to go. And that's where the seeds were planted. And fast forward January 1st, 2018, I read Matthew 7. It says, you shall know a tree by its fruit. I don't know why that passage, but Jesus was like, and I remember that day. I was like, I'm done. It's over. And you talk about like 180 death to life. Jesus just radically, my friends don't recognize. They're like, what happened? And it's John 9:25. I don't know much, but one thing I do know, I was once blind and now I see. I can't teach you Revelation. I honestly don't even know much about the Bible, but Jesus changed everything. And that started to...
And again, I just tell me, if I was his English professor, I'd say, okay, but tell me how this affected you, not just that once you were blind and now you can see.
Intoxication and there, smile, cheese. And
so this is the part where he gets arrested. And again, a lot of people have a come into Jesus moment, and sometimes it's used more colloquially, come to Jesus moment, but people might have the idea like, all right, I've been single for so long, I've been hooking up with so many random people, I don't feel fulfilled, and I want to find something more meaningful. I think that it definitely exists in the sort of heroic journey that we all go on from, identifying who we are in our 20s or 30s or 40s and coming to terms with that. I don't negate any of the sort of the metaphors being used here. I guess I would say I just see them more as metaphors, less as a personal conversation with a Jesus. Like I said before, I see God, and this is where I come from with my religious path. I see God as parts of all of us. I see us all as one organism, kind of like separated by our flesh, but I do see us as one greater organism. And for me, that helps me have empathy for others when you try to see everyone else as your brothers and your sisters and really as part of you.
Valentine's Day, you gotta be super single once you.
Yeah.
That's when like cocaine and Xanax and stuff really started to hit. And I was just so lost. I found myself February 14th, 2016, Valentine's Day. You gotta be super single to go to jail on Valentine's Day. And
so that's a line he said before. That line must crush in the church. I think it's funny. You gotta be super single to go to jail on Valentine's Day. Very funny stuff. So that's where he kind of like had his come to Jesus moment.
There's a lot of ways the devil can get to you, but her praying is one way that I'm like, now that we're married, we kind of just treaded that line carefully through engagement dating. But the married line, it's cool to just dive into that together.
Yeah. And then you guys have moved too, right? So there's been a lot of change, period.
A whole lot of new.
And get this, I got a hip replacement 2 months ago.
In engagement season.
2 months before our wedding. Full hip replacement.
Are they going to give you a senior citizens discount at like restaurants too?
See, and this is kind of one of the things. He got a hip replacement. Obviously, they believe in medicine. He had to go to a doctor to get his hip replaced. I just wish people would believe in medicine when it comes to times when, like, you've got maybe a lame pregnancy and you need to remove and abort the fetus because it has died, and you can't do that because you're at a Christian hospital and you have to worry about getting sepsis and dying. Now, people don't think about those things. They just think, oh, who wants to kill babies at 3 months? And you go, this is kind of one of the things. If you trust your doctor when to get a hip replacement, you should trust your doctor when they tell you, or you know, if you have to make tough decisions with your body. You know, I know there'll be pushback on that. 36 minutes here. Let's crush the line here. 36. So there's obviously no pushback in these types of conversations, but it would be nice to have an actual conversation about shame and about why pursuing the life you're pursuing can affect others if their life doesn't look the same. And that's really what purity culture is all about. It's not about telling you what to do with your body. It's telling pastors and preachers and people that have these big influences, don't tell others what to do with their body. Brene Brown defines shame as the intense, painful feeling or experience of believing we are flawed and therefore unworthy of acceptance and belonging. We're probably wired to feel shame because it keeps us in line with the rules of our society. When we break or flaunt the rules, we may be ostracized, which could mean death or at the very least disconnection, which can feel worse than death. So the reason that shame works so well is because we're wired to connect to and to seek acceptance from others. And shame effectively withdraws that acceptance and connection. But as the apple pie incident shows us, shame can embed itself in us deeply. Shaming words may never be forgotten, and shaming others, though it may be effective for behavioral change, damages them and lowers us in their esteem. Who wants to be around someone who tries to make them feel ashamed? So when I look at something as physical as having sex, which can also be spiritual, I look at a penis and a vagina or however which you want to do it, heterosexually or other ways. I look at that as not something that should be shamed, and you can express yourself and feel love. And maybe you're single for so long and you date the wrong guys. Maybe you date an asshole and you're like, I just want to meet someone who's more aligned with me on a spiritual level. So then you say, you know, whatever, that's okay too. But no amount of you has been lost because you've already, quote unquote, given up this metaphorical chastity that you have. Okay, so let's keep the party moving here. They talk about premarital counseling at the 34-minute mark, which is fun. Let's go there. A couple more clips here. Are we at the 34? Oh, we passed that. 36, 34, 46. We already did that. And then 42, 33. So let's jump on over. And you know what I'm going to do right now is so we have this really fun moment I'm going to share with you guys where they talk about the devil in the bedroom, but I wanted to share this with you. I mic'd myself up and my wife up, and we discussed and watched our wedding for the first time, our wedding video. We got married 3 months ago, and here's just a quick clip I wanted to share with you. If you want to watch the full thing, the early bird special goes to the Patreon, patreon.com/Dave Neal. If you want to watch us, watch our wedding video. Us watching wearing the same shirt. Our wedding video.
Okay,
it's my wife.
Angle it a little more towards me and maybe wipe all the fingerprints off our screen.
October 15th, 2022. Need a haircut. So this is the wedding video. You look beautiful.
Thank you.
Wow. Do you love it?
Yeah.
You look amazing.
You look great, babe.
Thank you. It's just a 10-minute video. All right, so then there it is, folks. And you can see the full thing out there. And again, apparently we've made a few people cry if you're out there. All right, let's get into it. 4233. So link in the comment section if you want to watch that.
I think one thing we've seen that before we were married, you know, Satan goes, how can I tempt you to be all over each other? Mm-hmm. And now that we're married.
Oh, hold on. There's a 36-minute mark. Did I get that? Okay, I got that. Okay, this is our final clip. So how Satan tempts them.
I think we see, especially in intimacy in the marriage bed, he goes, how do I keep you away from each other?
Yeah. Right,
one thing you walk in a marriage going, we're going to want to have sex 5 times a day, every single day, every single moment. And especially as a man, I'm thinking, but it's interesting how Satan is so crafty to try and split that intimacy up.
Yep.
Once you're married.
That's so true.
And when you're dating, he goes together. Now I can't tempt you with lust with her anymore. So how do I get you off that? And we have to fight. And there's moments that we have had that, not that we didn't, but we're like, hey, we want to choose to have intimacy right now, even after this big argument, because we want to fight for this unity. And we're looking at
funniest part's about to come from the co-host. Listen to what she's about to say.
Satan right in his eyes and going, we're fighting for what you cannot tear apart with God on our side.
Ooh,
So
Makeup sex.
good. Makeup sex.
yeah. In other
August
words,
people said amen.
Good.
right.
All right. We can all agree makeup sex. Yeah, but it's just, again, the phraseology is just something we can all differ on. And he says it's a Satan as an external force that fights to pull people apart. And again, I just look at that more inward as like we have different love languages. Some people feel very vulnerable after sex. Some people feel a certain way and they want to be comforted or go to have breakfast after or whatever the case may be. And you need to learn how to read your partner. That's what I talk about love languages. I mean, maybe the church talks about love languages, but it's very more targeted that we're all individuals trying to feel the same thing. So collectively, we want love, happiness, joy, and all that high energy frequency. But individually, we find it in a different way. Maybe we had a lot of affirmations growing up, so we want acts of service. Maybe we weren't told we were good growing up. Like myself, I always feel like I wasn't, told, those types of things. You have a single mom working all the time. Yeah, I'm sure she tried her best, but you whatever you lack is probably what you crave. And anyway, so it's, for me, it's like, no, I think it ain't Satan trying to separate us. It's our ego. It's our attention span. It's where we focus our time. But I, generally kind of feel that we're kind of on the same page there. There was one more thing I wanted to share very briefly. They only touch on it. They talk about she kind of getting jealous at the touching and flirting that would happen with other people.
Talk to people. I don't even notice it. Like I'll put my hand on their arm. I'm a very touchy guy. And she just came to me and she goes, Grant, like, not only are you a pastor now, but it just really hurts me when I see you, touch a girl's arm. And it's just been really cool for her even to help me then in something you think is so innocent. She said, that's a little foothold that maybe the enemy could get a hold of you. Mm-hmm. And so we even take like, how much of your personality, Grant and Maddie, as passionate people, do you shut down a little bit when the opposite sex is with you?
So this can be seen in different ways. It can be seen as super problematic. The idea that people have said, I don't take an elevator with someone of the opposite sex, or Mike Pence won't go to dinner with any of his staff members that are the opposite sex. And it can go to an extent where I won't look at someone of the opposite. I won't hug them, those types of things, which I think is foolish. But I do understand the idea of touching others when you're single, or flirting when you're single, harmless things when you're single, and not doing that in front of your partner. But I actually reject that it's a bad thing. I've talked a lot about the power of, how do I phrase this? The idea that we actually sort of harvest the energy we build with both people of the same sex and people of the opposite sex, and that flirting's not necessarily a bad thing. If you're like expressing yourself's not necessarily a bad thing, but you might not do that with your partner right next to you. But it doesn't mean now getting handsy in a sexual way is one thing. But if he's a handsy person and just hugs people and that, I don't see that as a bad thing at all. We might have, there's a fine line there. That's why I would love if I talked to them to actually discuss that farther, because I think that's okay. I think it's okay if, it's called The Way of the Superior Man, I believe is the name of the book. And it's the idea that it's okay to build chemistry and energy from innocent flirtation, which we say flirtation, but it's really just conversation. Now, as a stand-up comedian, when I'm on stage, I'm essentially flirting with the audience. And if I'm talking to a couple, women or men or mixed couples, in a different setting, it's still the same thing. And then you just have to be like, all right, am I alone with somebody? Are my intentions this way? Have I crossed the line? Everyone's got those moral boundaries they have to look at. But I feel like with certain relationships or, strict upbringings, by making sort of like a situation something that it's not, which is like touching someone's shoulder or looking someone in the eyes or whatever it is, by making something sexual that's not, it's more or less that same like over sexualizing of what is just naturally humans interacting. I think that's what we're talking about. Well, anyway, let me know if Satan has been entering your bedroom. Leave a comment. I'm going to be going live at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. East Coast, and then directly after tonight's episode, we'll have a ton to talk about. Follow me on Instagram at @DNeals. Patreon.com/Dave Neal to watch the wedding video. You want one more quick shot? Let's give you one more quick shot here. I'll just give you one more moment here. Oh, right, that's at the very end. All right, so anyway, there we are. You see, we got, if you watch this, Katie Thurston's in the background somewhere there for all our Bachelor people. So anyway, you can go check all that. The devil is on the dance floor, I'll tell you that much. We'll see you guys in a little bit. Bye, everybody.